Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and call the Castle Hills regular city council meeting to order. Determine if a quorum is present. A quorum is present. We're going to start with our invocation. We have a special guest with us here tonight. It's Rabbi Mara Nathan from Temple Bethel. Welcome.
Good evening. This coming Saturday evening, Jewish people around the world will sit at Seder tables and celebrate the beginning of our spring festival, Passover, a holiday that remembers and celebrates the redeeming of the Israelites from slavery under the tyrannical Pharaoh, and by extension, a holiday that reminds us to cherish our freedom, remember our history, and continue to stand up for those who are not yet fully free. In the Passover story, Egypt, or Mitzrayim in Hebrew, represents both a physical and spiritual narrowness. Egypt was a nation that kept the Israelites enslaved, but we acknowledge that the Israelites were stuck in their own sense of powerlessness. So we tell the story of our redemption each year to make sure we do not fall prey to the pharaohs of our own day or succumb to a sense of inevitability when our autonomy is challenged. Which is why at every Seder, we are meant to recite the following passage aloud. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, but Adonai our God took us out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Had not God taken our ancestors out of Egypt, then we, our children, and our children's children would still be enslaved to Pharaoh in Egypt. Even if we were all wise and perceptive, experienced and versed in Torah, it would still be our duty to tell about the Exodus from Egypt. The more one talks about the Exodus, the more praise one deserves. And so that's what we do. We talk about the Exodus, not just for ourselves, but as a reminder to stand up for all people, to inspire us to take care of our community and consider the needs of others. This too is what you are called to do as the City Council of Castle Hills. You are called to act with compassion and take care of all in need. You are meant to create safe spaces for discourse and for innovation and for change, to commit to protecting the vulnerable in your midst. As you begin the business of your City Council meeting this evening, may you commit once again to lead with kindness and sensitivity, considering the good of the whole, not only the needs of the individual. May you stand up for the well-being of each citizen in your community, and may you find the wisdom to work together to solve challenging problems that affect the lives of the people who live here, and to keep us all safe, inspiring us to treat each other with kindness and respect. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Next up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Chief Ludwig, will you lead us?
United States of America, Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, first up, we have the swearing in of 2 firefighters. Chief, you're up again.
Yes, sir. Tonight will just be 1 firefighter, so we'll have 1 for the next council meeting. But Mayor, council, city staff, and residents, thank you for your time this evening and allowing me to recognize firefighter Tia Case, who has reached her 1-year anniversary with the department. Firefighter Case came to us after completing her training and receiving her Firefighter 1 certification from Texas Commission on Fire Protection. Firefighter Case has excelled in her knowledge and abilities as a firefighter and EMT for the department. She has always been eager to learn new things and never shies away performing the task at hand. I would also like to include that she is our first female firefighter that we've had work for the Castle Hills Fire Department. So the department is happy to have her with us, and I am honored to present her badge and helmet shield to her this evening. So Firefighter Case, if you could come forward. If you want to go ahead and take her badge off. Sure. You can repeat after me. As I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will obey the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Texas.
and the Constitution of the State of Texas.
I will hold devotion to duty above personal risk.
I will hold devotion of duty of personal risk.
I will strive to protect the lives, homes, and property
I will strive to protect the homes, lives, and property
of the citizens and visitors of Castle Hills
of the citizens and visitors of Castle Hills
from the havoc of fire and other disasters.
from the havoc of fire and other natural disasters.
Congratulations. Yeah, did you? Yeah.
Oh, one.
Congratulations, firefighter Case. Okay, next up, we have citizen comments. First up, we have Ms. Norma McClellan. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Norma McClelland, and I live at 204 Sheffield. I'm here tonight as the Director of Fiesta Castle Hills, reminding everyone that our event is on April 26th. We start at 10 o'clock with the parade, and the fair goes on till 5 p.m. The second thing I want to let you know is our grand marshals. We have chosen Bruce Smiley Califf and Mitch Califf. They have contributed a lot, during the years to the city of Castle Hills, to the community, and they will serve as our grand marshals this year. And the last thing I want to mention is, I think most of you know myself or Judy Crawford. We are desperately in need of volunteers, so I know a lot of y'all know how to reach us, and we would certainly appreciate help from the council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McClellan. Next up, we have Mr. Kevin Berry. Your name and address and 3 minutes, sir.
Hi, I'm Kevin Berry. I live at 119 Dogwood Lane. I also happen to be the owner of the property at 1901 Northwest Military Highway. It's all called the Gallery Commercial Building. That's really why I'm here. I've appreciate all the communication I had with the councilman, and I appreciate everything y'all are doing. You're doing a great job. I wanted to talk about the speeders that we've got going on, and the 3 events that I want to talk about are anomalies. There's nothing the police are going to do about crazy people who drive out of control. First one happened, I don't know, maybe over a year ago. The entrance to Dogwood Lane was impacted and by a speeder, obviously going at a high rate of speed. The second one happened at my building. Somebody was traveling north away from 410, and they decided to hop the curb on Dogwood, right at the sidewalk going on Northwest Military Drive at a high rate of speed, continued apparently all the way through Moss, and hit the first set of trees that are now gone. And I'm going to talk about that real quick, but they hit that tree and then hit the next set of trees so hard that that Mercedes-Benz wheel exploded and impacted the tree with a piece of metal about 4 inches by about 1 inch into the tree. I called an arborist to look at the kind of damage I had on the tree, and I wanted to give you this history so everybody knows and the public. The arborist inspected the tree, told me that I had minimal damage to the trees, but those trees particular were diseased. They didn't have oak wilt. They had a different disease. And if you looked into that canopy, you'll notice that the majority of the bark on one side of the tree was down. And he indicated that they were hazardous trees. Then I had to figure out who was responsible for the trees. and those trees are in the Tex dot right of way, along with the other tree that was hit on the other side of the sidewalk. And we're going to talk about that tree in a minute. So ultimately, the decision was made and TxDOT removed those trees without telling me when they were going to do it, but they removed those trees. Those are heritage trees, impacted, hadn't been touched in 100 years, and they got hit by a tree. Last week, the other tree that did not get removed, that did not get disease, got hit by another person. I think you all may be aware of it. Someone traveling another high rate of speed hit that tree and significantly damaged that tree. We hope it's going to survive. But we don't know. We're going to find out when the arborist report comes in. My real concern here is I hope that we can do something as a community to try to spread the word that Castle Hills is not a place to speed through. I've talked to a couple of you and I appreciate that, but perhaps we could put, just to kind of get the word out, either a banner, don't speed through Castle Hills, maybe create a campaign. I'd be willing to sit on a committee if you're interested. Perhaps get the speed indicator out there, let people know how fast they're going and how they're going over the speed limit. I know the police officers are doing a great job and I think they've amped up their work and I appreciate them tremendously. I just wanted to make it known to everybody what happened to those trees and that it was not the property owner who took them down. And we hope that we can keep those other trees all up and down it because I think it's an identifying mark for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Okay, do we have anybody else sign up for non-agenda items? Just clarifying. Okay, then we'll go straight into the consent agenda. Council? Mr. May?
Mayor, I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. May. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Joyce. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Okay, first item, new business discussion and possible action on resolution 2025-04-08-A, expressing official intent to reimburse the tax exempt obligation proceeds cost incurred to acquire vehicles and equipment for the fire department. Mr. Perales.
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to ask the representatives from Samco to come up and talk about the issue.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Ryan Cunningham, Samco Capital Markets, the city's financial advisor. I'm a colleague of Andrew Friedman, who you've seen here at his meetings, the meetings before. He apologized for not being able to attend. Right now, my colleague, Jack McCliney, is handing out a little tax rate impact analysis that we'll go over after we first talk about the resolution before you. So what this resolution before you is a reimbursement resolution that allows you to enter into a purchase order to purchase a fire truck and then pay back yourselves with the proceeds from whether you did a tax note or a different method of financing back to yourself. So you could go ahead and order it, not have to wait for the money to be in by selling debt. Now, it doesn't obligate you to do anything. You don't have to pay yourself back from it. It just gives you the flexibility. Bond counsel recommends that you do this. It's just another tool that you have to attain the fire apparatus that you want. So like I said, it doesn't require you to pay yourself back, but it lets you enter into a purchase order to buy the equipment that you want, issue a debt instrument, and then pay yourself back from that. So that's what I had on that. I don't know if you want to get any questions about the reimbursement resolution or talk about sort of the tax rate impact and financing mechanism as well first, and then come back to the resolution before you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Council? Mr. May?
I was going to make a motion that the council adopt resolution number 2025-04-08-A.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second? That's Ms. Daines. Perfect. Any discussion? Mr. Joyce?
Sir, when you mentioned debt instruments, what are the options for them?
Yeah, perfect. So now thank you. So now I'll go over the tax rate impact analysis that you have before you. So there's really a couple ways that you could finance this. Now, one way is you could issue a tax note, which can have a maximum maturity of 7 years. It only would require one city council action to go ahead and authorize it at an amount determined. The reimbursement resolutions for $1 million, which is the estimated price of the vehicle, but obviously things are in flux with that. It hasn't been determined how much you would put down and actually finance. So we ran the scenario at $750,000. So a tax note would be one one council action. Another method that you've issued in the past is certificates of obligation, where you go post on your website, your notice to issue an amount not to exceed. It could be 750,000, 1 million. You can't go above that. It goes on the city's website notifying the citizens that you were going to come back at a future council meeting and authorize it. Now, usually you could go up 10, 15, 20 years. It would be up to you how far out. And obviously, the further out you go, the less immediate tax rate impact you would have, but you would pay more interest over the life of the loan. And you wouldn't want to go out further on the debt than the useful life of the vehicle that you would determine how long you would have that, because you don't want to be paying debt service on equipment that is no longer in use. So you've gone down that avenue in the past on other things. You could do that. Another thing is some places you could do a capital lease, which is either from the manufacturer or a third-party finance company. But the issue with that is it goes on your maintenance and operation side. And as you know, you can only go up 3.5% on that rate, your maintenance and operation every year. So it starts squeezing you, especially if your taxable value increases, there's less you have. Whereas if you do tax notes or certificate of obligation, it's on your interest and sinking fund, and you have more flexibility with your M&O funding for the operations of the city. So that's the different mechanisms really available to you. Now, as far as what would this be on the tax rate, doing a tax note at 7-year maturity, you can see there your interest and sinking tax rate is 5.8 cents right now. It would take it to about 7 cents. Now, if you went out to 10 years, it would be about 6.5 cents it would go up, and 15 years about 6.3 cents. Now, a little caveat, we try to be conservative in the interest rate that we use. We ran this at 4.75%. The city has an excellent bond rating, AA. But as you know, the markets are very volatile right now. The last 2 days, we've seen the municipal market rates move the most they have since COVID. So we're with the tariffs and everything going on, it's very difficult to predict where the rates will be. But like I said, 4.75, we would expect in a normal market, you would do better than that. But as I said, it's very volatile right now. And then obviously, if you did a certificate of obligation, 10, 15, 20 years, it would be a higher rate. We would estimate that around 5%. But obviously, the further out you go, the higher interest rate you're gonna have, because it's more risk to the purchaser. So, and then there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on too. There's a lot of talk in the legislature about what's going to happen as far as the ability of cities to issue debt. There's a little bit of talk out there. We don't think it's going to happen, that to purchase a vehicle, it would have to go to the voters. We don't think that that's going to happen, but they're talking about streets not being able and sidewalks being able to be included in certificates of obligation, which you can now, possibly one election date. We don't know that this is going to happen, but as far as timing, if you do a certificate of obligation, it's about 60 days versus a tax note can be about 30 to 35. So I just wanted to bring that up, just kind of higher level, not get into the weeds about, we don't know what the legislature is going to do, but there are some bills that are moving forward and gaining some steam that are going to make it a little bit harder for cities to issue debt. So I'm glad to answer any questions, and we'll just be looking for direction on you, on your consideration for this.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce.
Question for Ms. Davis, if I may. Didn't we just pay off a big fire truck? So the payment we were making annually for that, are we still doing that? Pardon? So we're no longer okay. Because it seems like one thing we might think about doing is taking that same payment and making it every year, and, you know, accumulating cash as we have in the past.
Mr. Prowlis?
Yeah, I think at the last meeting, that's exactly what you were talking about, is that once we paid off the original debt,
Yeah.
then that money could then be used to offset any new debt that you took over. So you're exactly right.
And it's sort of a long timeline till that truck is available, right, Chief? Isn't it like a 4-year timeline? Okay, well, that's better. But that still gives us time to come up with a nice down payment.
Yes, sir. That's, we spoke, you have $200,000 currently that has been set aside over the years for the purchase.
Okay. Okay, does this motion commit us to a particular methodology of
It
borrowing?
does not. It only allows you to reimburse yourself for if you take funds on hand to enter into a purchase order, you can repay yourself back if you issue debt, or if you didn't, you don't have to. It doesn't obligate you to do anything. It doesn't select the method of financing. We would be looking for direction from the city about how much you want to borrow and what method you would like to undergo.
Is there a way to do this without raising the tax rate?
So we use estimates. We try to be conservative. We only estimated taxable growth the next 3 years for 5% growth and then 0 after that. We've tried to be conservative. Now, if you got much higher than that, then you could keep your tax rate wouldn't go up as much, right? Because the more your taxable values increase, you generate more revenues from that same tax rate. But, in our conservative analysis, your tax rate would go up on this because your current debt service is flat. So it would require a tax rate increase, unless the values come in much higher. We're hearing some places are flat, other places are up, from different appraisal districts, but that would really be the only way that your tax rate would not have to go up to pay for this.
Okay, but one way or another, we're going to have to borrow some money because we only have 2 years. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Cunningham, so tagging on Mr. Joyce's question, this is basically us starting the conversation. And then from here, we would look at models to see what the tax implications would be to the residents.
That is correct. And the further we get along, like once you have, it depends on, once you get the certified values July 25th, then we know exactly what it would be in this upcoming year. If it comes up high and you want to hit a certain thing, we can structure the debt a certain way. But right now we don't have what the certified taxable values are yet. So we're trying to estimate, but we really do try to always be on the side, the conservative side. So there aren't surprises, but we don't know how, taxable values are going to come in throughout the state until we have that certificate, or at least we have the preliminary numbers, right, in April and then in May as we work through to get to that certification date, July 25th.
Ms. Haley, you had a comment? Okay. Council, any more comments, questions? We have a motion by Mr. Joyce, I'm sorry, by Mr. May, and a second by Ms. Daines. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the reappointment of the judge, but I know we have a bunch of people for item number 6.5. I want to make you all wait, so I'm going to go ahead and move that one forward. It's a discussion and possible action on city council direction to the zoning commission regarding possible amendments to the zoning ordinance and regarding possible moratorium on issuance of short-term rentals. Mr. Perales.
This item came before us. There's been some concerns by some of the citizens. We met last Wednesday, I believe, with a group of citizens that presented some of their concerns. I know Mr. Joyce has some of those, and I don't know if he may want to relay some of those messages. But I think that the council made a commitment to direct planning and zoning to consider some amendments to the existing ordinance. And also not necessarily just for placement or site selection, but also for maybe additional exclusions or additions, because some people have become very entrepreneurial and added swimming pools as short-term rentals. So make sure that we cover all the bases. Also look at penalties and how those are applied, and whether or not you want to reconsider fees as well. So in many cities, if you have two violations, two notices of violation, which is a difference, two notices of violation, it allows the city to pull any permit, and you're not eligible to renew that permit for a year. The reason they use notices of violation is because when you send a notice of violation, people have 10 years to remedy, or 10 days to remedy, and they address the issue, then it happens again the next time. So the reason that many cities use notices of violation is to make sure that people are paying attention to what their tenants are doing or their users are doing. And so that would be one of the things that I would recommend to planning and zoning. The other part of this discussion is a moratorium. And so I would ask that the council consider directing staff to set a pause until we can come back to council with whatever recommendations planning and zoning comes back with. And no date certain for me. I mean, it would be until planning and zoning is fully comfortable with the decisions, and then those can come back to council for approval or consideration.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Perales. Mr. Joyce, you have some comments?
Some comments, Mayor. I wonder, would it be appropriate to, I'm sure there's some citizens that have signed up. Would it be appropriate to hear from them first?
Yeah, definitely. We can start with that.
Thank you.
First one that we have signed up is Mr. Dean Glass. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dean Glass. I reside at 106 Wickford Way on the south side of 410. Recently, our neighborhood was notified and we realized that there are two short-term rentals on Wickford Way, one located directly across the street from my house and one 3 houses down. Right now, there's not been any major concerns. The participants in these homes, these short-term rentals, have been very minimal. There have been some cases of excessive garbage. There has been excessive parking, but nothing that I feel, needs to be addressed, in a serious manner, other than let's look, let's see what we can do, and let's move forward judiciously so that we are not in any sort of harm's way of ruining our beautiful city, and keep the citizens happy and healthy and safe. So thank you. And again, thank you for having that meeting last Wednesday, because I think it opened a lot of people's eyes that this is something that's probably going to grow unless we do something, and do something that will appreciate our property values and our living conditions here in Castle Hills. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next up we have I'm sorry if I butcher this, Candy Ponder. Is that okay? Next up we have Julie Vincent. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Julie Vincent, 203 Prinz. I was made aware of what was going on through Facebook, and I think I'm grateful for that, but I also think we have to be cautious when we are making rules on things that are on Facebook. If we have ordinances and codes that need to be enforced, if we have new ordinances and codes that need to be studied and created, I feel we need to do that. However, I caution against a knee-jerk reaction to postings of a few people on Facebook. There are quite a few very successful and lovely Airbnbs in Castle Hills. Whether people are staying for a couple of nights or a couple of months, they may be interested in moving to our city, or at the very least, they are spending money in our city. We cannot turn our city into a place where people are against ideas, small businesses, and welcoming others. There may be issues with some short-term rentals. However, I assure you, there are the same problems with year-round residents of Castle Hills. There are plenty of houses that are owned by people who maybe they inherited their house and they don't keep it up. There are tarps on rooftops. There are unsightly lawns. There are other problems, trash that's not trashed correctly. This is not an Airbnb issue. As a citizen of Castle Hills, our frustration comes when codes and ordinances are not enforced. Perhaps we need an educational campaign to let residents, new and old, know what is and is not permissible in Castle Hills. This includes everything from oak wilt to weed control to trash rules. If we need to hire other code compliance officers, then perhaps we should investigate and proceed with that. Our city has been a treasure to those of us that love it here. However, our city is not as shining as it was 20 years ago. This is not due to Airbnb. It is possibly due to a lack of enforcement and ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ms. Catherine Joyce. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Catherine Joyce and I live at 108 Sir Arthur Court. The short-term rental at 107 Wickford Way opened in March of 2025, and it's listed on at least 5 booking sites. It's been 39 days, and this is what has occurred in 39 days. Construction crews broke 1 brick column on our fence when the cement mixer backed into their backyard from the alley. They poured a pickleball court. 5 times trash has been a problem. At least 20 bags were piled up in front of the garage doors. They cleared it away by using our trash cans and placing it in our driveway. They still moved the trash from their side of the alley and placed it in our driveway. 2 late night parties, one at 3 a.m. with guests on the back patio smoking pot, one at midnight with rowdy drunk young men swearing and playing basketball while blaring rap music after a Final Four game. Their pool company drained chlorinated water from the hot tub in the pool into the alley. There are loud pool parties at any hour. Nowhere on the listing does it mention quiet hours in Castle Hills. The listing sleeps 16 with a pickleball court, a pool, a hot tub, a fire pit, an arcade, and a basketball court. I have attempted to contact the owner and the main host. One has a San Francisco phone number and the other has a Charlotte, North Carolina phone number. I have not been able to reach a resolution yet. The owner would not return my call, and I'm going round and round with Airbnb. I urge council, mayor, and the zoning commission to tighten up the restrictions on these properties that are disruptive to Castle Hills neighbors who have the misfortune to live next door to them. One every 12 houses in any direction. As the code stands, we could open one at our home that backs up to this one. We live at 108 Sir Arthur Court. Harsher fines and punishments for repeated violations and police calls. If the fine is $50 on a $3,000 weekend booking, that is not much of a detriment to the owners. The ability to shutter the businesses for a period of a week, a month, a quarter, or a year if they fail to follow Castle Hills rules. It is evident that they are not aware of our codes, nor do they care to follow them. I have rented STRs all over the world and prefer them to hotels because we can have outdoor space and live like locals, but only if they're managed well and respectful to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. Mr. Joyce?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I had a whole speech prepared, but Catherine has taken care of a lot of it, and so has Mr. Perellis. I think I just want to make, if I may, first of all, make one correction on behalf of Mr. Glass. I apologize, Mr. Glass. There was a note sent out by the mayor the day after the meeting last week clarifying that that place at 113 Wickford Way has not applied for an STR license. And furthermore, there could not be a second STR on Wickford Way because there's not enough houses. So just to correct the record there. But anyway, I think we've heard the story here. Catherine's told it very well, I think. And Gilbert really went through a lot of some of the suggestions. If you don't mind, I'll just repeat that because I think it's really important because there's a couple ones in here that that he didn't mention. I think that requiring the owner's representative to be able to respond to complaints within an hour is a good thing. That's already in an ordinance. And I don't know how we can enforce it, but I'm not sure we do. That thing, as Catherine mentioned, across from us at 107 Wickford Way has a capacity of 16. The ordinance says this is not to be for parties. 16 sure sounds like a party house to me. So I think we need to work on the occupancy. And I think we need to work on the capacity of the bedrooms as well. And Gilbert showed us last week some of the things that Arlington did, and I think a couple of things that really made a lot of sense were not to allow a garage to become a bedroom. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Another thing that Arlington does is they restrict pervious color, cover, that is to say, like a concrete deck or parking or something like that. And I think we should apply that not only to parking areas, but also to sport courts, like pickleball courts and basketball courts and stuff like that. Both Catherine and Gilbert mentioned making application fees and fines a lot stiffer. If they're taking in a couple $1,000s over a weekend, it seems like we could hit them a little harder. And the idea of a couple of violations and you lose your permit. I also like the idea of a moratorium, because there's a lot of things. Another thing that's going on here is that there's a lot more Airbnbs operating in Castle Hills than are registered. Ms. Quintero has given us the list of registered, and I want to say there's 8 or 9 plus a few in the hopper, so maybe 12 or 13 altogether. But there's at least 20. If you look at the Airbnb website, there's at least 20. So anyway, I think we need to get our act together in terms of figuring out how to get all of these places operating in STRs on the list. But I do grant Ms. Vincent's point that, you know, some of these are very good, you know, and I don't want to downgrade all of them. But I do think we need to impart some stricter regulations, because enforcement's fine, but I'm the one that had a call at 3 in the morning. And it sure would have been nice if that was already taken care of. Now, I didn't have to get awakened at 3 in the morning to call the cops. So if there's some way we can anticipate that, I think that would be very much helpful. And I think one of the neighbors summed up the goal, I think, very well. And what he said, and I'll paraphrase, of course, approve the most restrictive ordinance that the legal environment will allow. Because there's, you know, there's lawsuit possibilities. And hopefully we'll hear a little bit about that in a moment or two. But anyway, so what's our options? I think certainly we can task zoning with updating the ordinance with appropriate public hearings, however they think that best, using some of the ideas we presented here tonight. I do think the idea of a moratorium is a good idea to get our act together and get the ordinance updated, and not stopping anybody that's in the pipeline. They continue to go through the pipeline. It's just stopping new stuff. It seems like a reasonable approach. Hopefully we wouldn't get into legal trouble. But I think it's a lot to put on the zoning folks. I just wonder if we might supplement their work with some studies of current winners and losers legally, for example. Who are those cities that are winning the lawsuits, if there are any, against the STRs? And I also think that we ought to do a little study of some of the other cities around us, and perhaps Gilbert could head that up, but I'm not directing him to do that. But anyway, come up with a study that would help the zoning folks make some good decisions. Certainly, they're going to hear from all of us, hold public hearings. But I think they had some good background on what the legal environment is and what other cities are doing, that would be a really big help. And then I think finally, task staff to come up with a strategy to incorporate the non-permitted STRs into permitted STRs. Just figure out how to find those folks that are operating out there without their permit. So I think these are all good ideas, and I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to make a motion, but I think, Mayor, I'll just turn it over to my colleagues and yourself to offer other comments.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Before we jump into comments, I think Mr. Perales had okay. Mr. Smith, please.
Mr. Mayor, this afternoon, I got an email from a citizen who's not able to make the meeting and who asked me to make a statement on his behalf. It's from Scott Whitty, who's at 110 Iron Gate Road. He thanks us for the opportunity to get his message across. In his words, I would like to encourage the Castle Hills Council to adopt a ban on new short-term rentals within the applicable statutes. The city may want to consult with the town of Hollywood Park on their experience and ordinances. Additionally, it might be best for any council member or member of the zoning commission that has an interest in a short-term rental be recused from official participation on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Council, I had the privilege of sitting in a small group conversation with Ms. Haley and Mr. Joyce, and it's very clear that there's residents that are being negatively impacted by this. And I personally believe, to Ms. Vincent's point, that there's more to it. I think it comes down to basic code compliance. So much of what we're experiencing, I say I haven't been impacted, honestly, but what y'all are experiencing is having to do with trash and noise and parking, and all of that is already covered by what the city of Castle Hills has in place. I think that there's ways that we can support that, but make no mistake, we do need to revamp our rules. The STR rules were put in place in 2020, and things have evolved substantially since then. Now there's apps for swimming pools, and now there's apps for you can go park your car in somebody else's garage. And so with the evolution of the STRs and the apps of the sort, I think we're past due on reviewing our ordinances and making sure that while we're supporting good actors, we're also incentivizing the ones that are breaking the rules and causing problems in the city of Castle Hills. With the sign up list already closed, but I see that we probably have a couple people that want to speak. Please, Judge, I see you're already halfway there. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, please.
My name is Martha Tanner. I live at 111 Cobblestone. I'm particularly concerned about this quote, "in the pipeline," because at 113, there is a Blue Sky who owns that allegedly, and they are advertising that as a retreat for doctors. Well, God bless doctors. I love them, but I don't want a retreat for them in my neighborhood or anyone else like that. I think that's within the zone of 12 houses. And I want to make sure that in the pipeline does not include 113 because they are moving in a lot of items and making it habitable for an STR. I just want to make sure that that's being directed at this time.
Judge, I can confirm that 113 is not on the list, and nor would it be allowed because there's not enough houses on Wickford Way.
All right. And has someone informed city staff that they are not to use your permit?
City staff knows what they're doing now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is David Lewis, and I live at 212 Hibiscus. I appreciate the problems that that one lady had with the big parties and 16 people and what have you. And there's no doubt there needs to be some kind of regulations of some sort for Airbnbs. I just want to make sure that we keep Airbnbs, that we don't get rid of them. And the reason being is it brings people to Castle Hills who wouldn't necessarily have ever come here. We don't have hotels, so Airbnbs take the place somewhat of the revenues that hotels would give to the city. But it also creates commerce. So people who come to Castle Hills to Airbnb are likely to shop, likely to eat at restaurants in Castle Hills. But there's no doubt there's people who are abusing this. And the hard part's going to be enforcing people to get permits to take care of their properties and what have you. And I would be more than happy to join any committee, spend any time you want, because I have an Airbnb. And I go on the Airbnbs and check all the other guys out. And yeah, I want the bad ones to go away and the good ones to stay. So anything I can do to help.
Okay, council. We have a lot in front of us and we have other people that want to speak. Mr. Paul? Your name and address, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Frank Paul, 112 Shalimar. I just had a question. I think the gentleman, 106 Wickford? 107, okay. Already commented that there were 2 on Wickford, but yet there are only 19 properties on Wickford. So if there are in fact 2 that are identified, one's obviously not legal. Just a comment. I thought I heard him say that, so I wanted to be sure to bring it up.
Yes, sir. That's what Mr. Joyce clarified.
Thank you.
Yes, whoever's next, please. Sure, double up. Your name and address, you have 3 minutes.
Richard Becky Smith, 206 Antler.
We've been owners of an Airbnb in the past for about 7 years and did so without any disturbance of our neighbors. And it is very sad what we hear going on, but we hope it doesn't paint all of us in a bad light. And I wonder if legally there could be some way to differentiate between the kind of Airbnb we had and we look forward to having again soon in Castle Hills, where it's for grandparents with their kids, they're coming for a little vacation, versus what's behind Joyce's house, which I would call a party house. The business model is pack as many people in there as possible, and there's going to be trash and all sorts of problems. Usually a pool is a part of that. That's the business model. And we are going to be owners right around the corner from where we are. It will not be a party house, much fewer people. And so there's so many good Airbnbs that are quietly being a benefit to the community. And that's our retirement. So I just want to say party house, bad. Airbnb, good. They're not the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that any of the intricacies would be discussed during the zoning public hearing. So you'll have, if this passes, which I'm assuming that it may, you'll have lots of opportunities there to make recommendations, and it'll be up to the zoning committee to be able to determine which items might work best for the city of Castle Hills. Yes, sir. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Garrett Heath, 105 Cobblestone. Thanks to Judge Tanner for kind of talking to us as we go on our walks and I run into Pepito. So just a couple of things, I went through the ordinance or the short-term rental opportunity requirements, had 2 quick questions. One, I think the person earlier pointed out, number 3 under section A, a local contact person name and number. She's not able to get a hold of someone locally. What does local mean? Does local mean Castle Hills? Does it mean San Antonio? I think that would be kind of an interesting thing to understand. And then the other one, the pickleball court. I mean, I saw them lay down the concrete. I'm like, oh man, they must be making a little casita for someone moving in. Their mother-in-law has a pickleball court. I'm like, oh, okay. That definitely, is a party. Like, I don't play pickleball a ton, but I would imagine that it gets pretty rowdy out there. But the other one that I'm more concerned about, because I saw it in this thing, and I've walked by the house and I swear I haven't seen anything, but this was like letter B5, swimming pool barrier requirements prescribed by the building inspector. As far as I know, that pickleball court one does not have any gate around that pool. And so if we're talking about code compliance, Like that seems like a really easy one to shut something down real quick. So I don't know if there is something that can be done about that. I don't know what the liability of the city would be if some kid were to get in there, drown, and that was okayed, you know, I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because to me, that's a pretty easy one that should be bare minimum fix probably. Thank you.
No, there was
Perfect. Thank you.
one, and they took it down.
Okay, council. We've heard from a lot of residents. We have emotions, opinions, discussion. Ms. Daines.
So I live behind an short-term rental property and we've never had 1 minute's trouble ever. But again, the owners and managers of the Airbnb live right there. And so they know who they're renting to. They know if there's any rowdiness going on. And I do think that it is important for the council to get the ordinance right so that we are not negatively impacting the neighbors. I've never been negatively impacted, but just hearing Miss Joyce's story, I mean, that's horrendous. I can't imagine dealing with that kind of garbage and that kind of noise. And I do believe that there is a way that, you know, multiple call outs to the police for noise ordinances and things like that, it should be fairly quick to be able to get written, you know, something to the owners of the Airbnb to say, you're going to have to cease and desist if you can't, you know, plus if it's not in the rental agreement saying quiet hours in Castle Hills are from, you know, 10 PM to 8 AM, then the people who are renting it don't know. They think they're renting a party house and, you know, they don't have any consideration for anyone around them. But I do think that there is a big need to tighten all of this up. As the mayor mentioned, we put this in place 5 years ago. The world has changed a little bit, so we can make improvements. I would also like to say if there's going to be a moratorium on approving new ones, I would feel more comfortable having a timeline on that and not just say until zoning gets something done, because I think that could go on maybe too long. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Daines. Council? We have a motion. Mr. Prowlis?
Just a clarification. So the direction is to send the revamp of the ordinance to plan and zoning and a directive to staff for the placement of the moratorium. And am I correct?
Maybe, let me see, Mr. Joyce?
I think we need a motion.
Yeah, we do.
So, okay. I will move that we task the zoning commission with updating the ordinance with appropriate public hearings and incorporating in the directive to them some of the comments that were made this evening. Secondly, I believe we should establish a moratorium, say 90 to 120 days, to prevent undesirable short-term rentals from coming to our city in the interim. And as I mentioned earlier, I think we could assist zoning with studies on current winners and losers legally, do some research on cities and see how strict their ordinances are. And finally, task staff to come up with a strategy to incorporate the non-permanent STRs into permanent STRs. And I move that we do all of the above.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Do we have a second? We can have a discussion.
So I would like a clarification. Mr. Joyce said 90 to 120 days, and I'd like to clarify that one or the other.
Before we get there, I think Mr. Schnall has some input too.
Well, Ms. Daines made one of my suggestions, which was I do think we need a specific number, not a range of numbers. And our agenda says that the possible moratorium on issuance of short-term rental permits. And so I think that the issue about moratorium should track the language in the agenda. That's what we told the public the council might take action to do. That's also a very specific item. And our ordinance would allow that kind of moratorium under these conditions. I think several people have already commented on the ordinance does contain a limit on the number of short-term rentals on a street. And what this would do would allow staff, as was suggested earlier, anything that's already been filed under Chapter 245 of the Local Government Code will proceed, but staff is aware that if there is already one Airbnb or one short-term rental, to use the more generic term, on a street, there cannot be a second if there are less than 24, property units on that street. And staff, as I understand from Mr. Perales, has been so instructed. But for purposes of this motion, I think clarifying it to say, is it 90 days or 120 days? And making it clear that the moratorium is on issuance of short-term rental permits.
Mr. Joyce, do you want to clarify that?
Yes, I'd like to clarify that to propose that the moratorium be no longer than 120 days. And that the issuance of short-term rental permits be the purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Ms. Daines, you okay with that? Perfect. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I have an email.
Okay,
to
you
read.
want to read that email real quick?
This is from Kathy Brown at 102 Wickford Way. To whom it may concern, my name is Kathy Brown and I have lived at 102 Wickford Way since 2005. I attended the citizens meeting regarding short-term rentals last week and promptly went home and read Article 5, short-term rental in the Code of Ordinances, Section 50-519H. The total number of short-term rental properties in the A single-family district and in the B duplex district is limited to no more than 1/12 of the total number of single-family and duplex units on a single street. An application for a short-term rental permit will be denied if granted the permit would violate this provision. It was brought up in the meeting that the language was too vague for the permit office to understand, and I have a few concerns. This language is clear that since there are only 19 properties on Wickford Way, according to Bear Appraisal District records, that the permit office should only allow one short-term rental on Wickford Way. To my understanding, the house across the street from me is currently operating as the STR, and therefore the house at 113 Wickford Way, which is in the pipeline for permit approval per Mr. Perales, should be denied a permit. I am extremely concerned about the lack of oversight of STRs in Castle Hills, and especially on Wickford Way. Our street is a short residential street, very quiet, and most of us have lived here for years. I would prefer 0 STRs in Castle Hills, but barring that, I urge you to put a moratorium on permits for STRs until all cases are thoroughly reviewed and not merely rubber stamped along. If no one in the permit office is reviewing these STRs, then I would ask you to notify neighbors that an address is applying for a STR permit so that we can let you know that there is already an STR on the street. I do not want to trample on the rights of other homeowners, but my husband and I are entitled to the quiet enjoyment of our property. The one short-term rental at 107 Wickford Way needs to be held to the same standards that all Castle Hills residents follow regarding noise, parking, trash, etc. We raised our daughters here, and our plan is to continue to live in Castle Hills in this home, welcoming our children and grandchildren back to our tranquil street. We cannot have this future if the permit office and Castle Hills official allow everyone on the street to turn their property into a short-term rental with endless parties night after night. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Miss Haley? Yes, ma'am. Yes, your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Mary Quandro. I live at 105 Sir Arthur Court. Castle Hills is my permanent home. And like everybody here, we pay pretty high taxes. And I didn't move here to learn that I'm going to live next to, transient people that are going to come into my neighborhood. This could get worse, and I think everybody agrees. I mean, I have a house next door to me that's been sold 4 times, and they're thinking about moving again. What if they turn that into an Airbnb? What are my options? Are you going to lower my taxes? You really need to look at this. Would you like somebody living like this next to you? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Council? I thought somebody had their hand raised. Ms. Haley?
So if we do a moratorium and we have however many houses we have permitted and the houses that or properties that we know don't have a permit, does that preclude them from cleaning up their non-permitting and getting things right with the city? I mean, if we're going to say we know there are 10 more properties, I don't know the number. I don't know how to read the Airbnb listing, but if we have people that are operating without a permit and without making their contribution to the city through the hotel motel tax, that needs to happen. And people can say, oh, the city only wants the money. Well, the money goes to pay the firefighters and the police officers and the people that work for us to do the services and provide the services that we expect and need. So if people are operating without a permit, that needs to be cleaned up, whatever that looks like. And I don't know how that will all happen, but if we're trying to declare a moratorium, would that across the board, because that's another 120 days with people not operating under the permit that they're supposed to be operating under.
So I think the question for Mr. Schnall is if they're operating illegally now,
If
would
they're
they,
operating illegally now, we shut them down. As
Okay,
basically.
it's just a
it.
shutdown.
So you don't need a moratorium for that.
Okay,
I mean, that's already in the books. It's a code violation.
okay,
And so we address that. As we find out, we shut them down. And so there is no moratorium for that kind of activity.
Okay.
So we find all 20 of them out there that are operating illegally and we can shut them down all in the same day, we will.
okay, thank you. I have one more
Mr. May?
question. Swimming pools, and if we're going to incorporate all of this into rent your pool or rent your garage, will that become another part of this as a short-term rental?
I think that would be up for us to decide at zoning, because I don't know that we have
Th-
regulations.
That's the recommendation, to redefine what short-term rental means. It's not just a home anymore. There's also swimming pools, garages, pickleball courts, all that stuff. So
Mr. May?
In transparency, and I'm going to need to consult with Mr. Schnall after the meeting today. I'm going to recuse myself from taking a vote on this proposition. And the reason is because I have operated a permitted Airbnb here in Castle Hills. Very well, I might add. And I can see both sides of the issue. And my desire before deciding whether to reinstitute that Airbnb would be to look at a lot of the issues that will be brought up. I have a ton of information that I think is helpful, both from the legal point of view, the economic point of view, the policy point of view. And I'd like that opportunity through the committee, the zoning commission, whatever entity is going to look at this. So Mr. Schnall, I'll need a reading on what, if any, contribution I can make as a person that previously operated an Airbnb permitted legally, but is no longer doing that, but may in the future.
And we can have that discussion after the meeting at our mutual convenience. I do want to point out that the reason, because citizens may not be aware, the reason that the recommendation is being made for this to go back to the zoning commission, which is what Mr. Joyce's motion is and what our agenda calls for, is because the short-term rental provisions are in Chapter 50, the zoning ordinance, and the zoning ordinance provides that amendments to the zoning ordinance need to be recommended to the city council by the zoning commission. So the zoning commission will hold its public hearing or hearings, and it will bring a recommendation back to city council, which have also hold one or more public hearings, and then take action to make whatever amendments seem appropriate and in line for the city council. Meanwhile, if Mr. Joyce's motion is adopted, there'll be this 120-day moratorium on the issuance of permits for any short-term rental for which there is not a pending permit application, because we have to recognize that the local government code does require the processing of an application that was received before the action tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schnall. Okay, council, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Let the record show Mr. May abstained. Thank you, council. Okay, going backwards, discussion and possible action on the reappointment of Harold T. McCall as municipal court judge for the city of Castle Hills. This is something that we do every 2 years, follows the mayor's election cycle. I think we have Mr. McCall here and his team. I don't know if we need an agenda, I'm sorry, a motion. I know that we have somebody signed up to speak as well. Ms. Martin, I had you signed up to speak. Did you want to speak?
Good evening. My name is Patsy Martin. I live at 223 Glen Tower. Since I only have 3 minutes, I won't be able to tell you all the wonderful qualities that our judge has, but I will tell you, as a volunteer in our court for 10 years or so, I've been able to see Judge McCall in action. And as a resident of Castle Hills, I want to tell you how proud each of us should be to have a judge that is the quality that he is. He treats each person with respect. He makes people feel comfortable. He's very knowledgeable about the law, and he follows the law. So I want to heartily recommend that his contract be renewed and tell you how fortunate we are. Now, while I'm up here, may I make one more comment about the Garden Club?
Yeah.
Okay. On April 22nd, the Castle Hills Garden Club will be doing or presenting a presentation on oak wilt. It will be April 22nd at 6:30 in the chambers. And we are going to have a speaker that is a woodland expert from A&M speak to us about oak wilt. And I hope each of you will come and tell your neighbors, because I think it will really be instructive for all of us to know more about oak wilt. And I think we've got the right person that's going to be sharing the information with us. Thank you. 6:30.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Mr. Schnall, do we need a motion from council to reappoint Judge McCall?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we reappoint Harold McCall as the municipal court judge for Castle Hills.
Perfect. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Haley. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Thank you, Judge. Next up, we have presentation and discussion on a quarterly municipal report. Judge?
Council, mayor, city staff, residents. I usually like to give a report on the court. Haven't done it in a while. I don't think I've done it for you guys. But I wanted to go through it because if you don't come here and see the production once every Thursday, you don't realize how many people we're moving through and how efficiently it runs now, and how much work they do, how much work Patsy and Don and Rick's staff helps us, and the police department, and everybody just chips in. Everybody gets along. I have a great team. Everybody else is a great team, and they're moving a lot of cases that get filed here. I'm going to talk about filed cases in the caseload. I don't get into the revenue, as y'all know, but I started in 20 to give you all a picture because we're finally back on track. We had COVID and we were down 5 policemen and thank you. We were down like 5 policemen, and our traffic officer, Ron, had passed away, so we were without him for about a year. So in 2020, there were 3,600 cases filed in our court, and we processed 3,227 that year. That was, we closed that many and pressed them through. In 2021, 4,557 cases were filed, and we processed 4,737. Again, in 2022, we're kind of coming out of there were some moratoriums on certain things that the court, we couldn't issue warrants, we couldn't do certain things. And we're starting to come out of that. We processed we filed with our court, 6,165 cases were filed, and we processed 5151 of them. And 2023, 4,788 cases were filed. We processed 4,320. Then we're back up to full speed. In fact, better than it's probably ever been. In 2024, 11,485 cases were filed, and we processed 6,046 of them were completed. I actually got a letter in December from the state, and they said, Judge, can you please explain to me why your filings are so far off from the years before? And I explained to them, I wrote them a letter and says, look, we were down like 4 or 5 policemen. We had a full-time traffic officer, and we had just replaced him in February 24. And they sent me back a nice letter and says, thank you for the explanation. It makes sense. And then this year, 2025, first quarter, 2,712 cases were filed. We processed 2,408 cases. We're doing really, really good. We have a great warrant officer. We joke with him that he's got a 5-star Google rating. So in 2020, we issued 1,499 warrants. He serves 1,692. 2021, we issued 2,050. He served 3,213. Somebody may ask, how could you serve more than you have? Because there are warrants left over and there's a surplus. So let me do that. And then in 2023, we issued 2,562, and we end up getting returned to us and served by the warrant officer 1,838. Then in 2024, we issued 6,833 warrants, and we had 2,423 served. And currently in 2025, we've issued 1,356 warrants in the first quarter, and we've Rich has served 1,015. So the next slide here, it's a statistical report just to give you guys an idea, because they were talking about speeding and different things. This is how the violations break down. If there were under 20 of them for a year, this goes from 2020 to 25. I put them in the other column. But as you can see, one of the biggest ones is the speeding. 27% of the cases filed are speeding. Expired registration is 20%. Fail to maintain financial responsibility is 16%. No driver's license is 9%. Speeding in the school zone 6%, and the rest of them are 5%. So the reason I show you this is because we've got a few questions on the House Bill 3297, which was passed by the 88th legislature. This was the one that took away the requirement to get your vehicle inspected if it wasn't a commercial vehicle. Now, sometime back in, Tina can maybe get me straight, 2017, the MVI went away. 2015, the motor vehicle inspection went away. That was like the number one stop out of everybody. That went away. It did affect cases filed because, as some of you guys know, I'm a retired policeman, so those are real easy to see. It's a big old sticker. So I've been asked a few questions by different people. Will that affect the caseload of the municipal court? The new law now. It won't, because they didn't take away the sticker. You just don't have to get the the inspection to get the sticker. We don't anticipate any change in the caseload and what they have to work, staffing issues because of that law change. So I just wanted to clear that up with everybody. I wanted to talk a little bit about the staff. We're fully staffed. Tina's done a great job training Ernie. I don't know if y'all met him, but if you haven't, you should come in and talk to him. He's great, does a fantastic job. He's up to speed now. He's great with people. I also talk about him here. He's been just a tremendous help. Tina can take days off now when she needs to take days off. We've got somebody to cover on court date. We're efficiently moving things back and forth because we have somebody that knows what they're doing over there, and then Tina sits in here and runs the court equipment. Public praise. I hear it. I don't know if you guys hear it too much, but I get numerous compliments from the public, prosecutors, attorneys that are in here, that when they come to our court, they're actually treated equally. The prosecution and they treat the defendants as well as they treat the prosecution. They're not biased. They do a great job at doing that, and we get several compliments about that. For our warrant officer too, like I said, his Google rating. He's out there hassling them, and they come in here to deal with the warrant, and they're like praising him and laughing with him and what have you. And it's just a nice group. Thank you for reappointing me. I appreciate it. And if you guys ever have any questions whatsoever, let me know. The last slide on here just says thank you. And if you guys ever need anything, Tina can give you my cell phone number. I won't give it out. You can call her cell phone number. If you guys have any questions about the court whatsoever, just give us a call. I'm sorry, I have really bad allergies right now too, so I'm just joking.
Thank you,
But
Judge.
if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Mr. Joyce?
Thank you, Mayor. No questions, Judge. Just want to thank you for the great job you and your team are doing. And as a matter of fact, you're doing such a good job that we don't have enough parking for you. So we're gonna have to fix that somehow. Thank you
Yes.
for that.
If you've seen it, we had 500 on the docket the last court, and there's about, I don't know, 30% that we'll just take care of it up front, and then we deal with the rest of them. How long did it take you to get them in, Rich? An hour and a half? Took about an hour and a half because we have 2 waves to get everybody set down, but we're working the whole time. It runs really, really well, and I thank you guys. And if we can do anything else, let us know. We'll be glad to take care of it. Thank you.
Mr. May?
I do have one comment. I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And as a fellow lawyer, I know lawyers kind of like to complain a lot. Well, I shouldn't have said it like that. They can complain. And
Sure.
in the case of your court, I have never heard a complaint by either side, which is a very rare event. So you are doing something very good in that courtroom.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have to say one other thing. We have a traffic officer too giving tickets. When Ron was here, no complaints. Our new guy, I haven't got a single, because they think you're sitting there, you're gonna take the complaints. I haven't got a single one, which is a testament to the police department. They're doing a good job, and all the young guys we have, they're a fantastic job. So thank you very much.
Ms. Haley?
I'd just like to add, coming in and out of the building a lot and seeing Ernie and Tina and how they greet, how they treat people that come to the window, always pleasant, always with a smile. They're a great face of the community for people that come in here, and they're not at their best a lot of the time, but they do a super job of keeping things smooth and even. So I appreciate them. I'm not here on Thursdays, but I know what I see in the window. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Perfect. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up, we have discussion and possible action on accepting the Castle Hills Department Racial Profiling Report for 2024. Assistant Chief Atako.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch real quick on what Judge McCall said. We did have a big difference in the racial profiling report from the year before because we had 3,089 stops in 2023. Of course, more tickets and more violations, but from 2023, that 3,000 jumped up to 10,000, which you've noticed if you have if you review the report. That's because of that traffic officer that we added. Also, we have a few more officers on, so they're working that STEP, the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program. So we've got a lot more out there on the street visibility, making stops and writing citations. I'm not going to take too much time because I know you guys got this report. I will say that I did make a mistake. As hard as I try to be perfect, I am not perfect. So my exhibits were, I missed number 4. That is not missing out of there on purpose. That was just me. I missed the number. So I numbered them incorrectly. So there's only 6 exhibits, even though I go up to 7. I just skipped number 4. That was my mistake. This was reported. It's a report that's required by the state. As you guys know, I'm required to report it to the state by March the 1st, which we did. We got it in February.
It was accepted by the state, so we just wanted to present it to council. So you guys, for transparency purposes, you see exactly what we're doing and when it comes to racial profiling and how we police ourselves. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Mr. May?
I would just note, it may not be required by state law, but what would be very helpful is if in the columns next to all of these numbers, there was a demographic of the current demography by race of the metro area and the breakdown in reality of the percentage that break down into each race. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have seen other racial profiling reports that include that. I didn't include it in this one, but you're right. I can include that next year.
When I do historical research, this is an important part of my research, which is documenting what we all know is a horrendous historical fact from the early part of the 20th century to up to the present. I'm hopeful that we're doing better. I've done a quick little scan just by the numbers I know, current numbers demographically, and it does appear that we're doing a better job not racially profiling. And I want to continue seeing that.
Yes, sir.
And I think that everyone in our police force is very aware that what their job is. And I applaud you. But in the future, going forward, if we can have demographic breakouts and real numbers by percentage.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I'll include that for sure.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Daines.
Oh, I just had one comment. I wanted to commend you guys on, I noticed that that one of the things was report of complaints filed against officers for violating racial profiling policy. And out of those 10,000 stops, you had all of one complaint and it was dismissed for like lack of any real credibility.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, council, next up, we have discussion possible action on resolution 2025-04-08 regarding adoption of purchasing policies and procedures manual for the city of Castle Hills. Mr. Perales. I'm sorry. Mr. Schnall, do we need to vote to accept that profiling report?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Perales, back to you.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I was paying attention at the March 11th meeting last month when you asked for the development of a policy for procurement for the city, working with the finance department with Nora and the lady that helps us, Vicky. We put together this document. It follows pretty much state law. And it really what it does, it provides staff and council members an opportunity to understand what's required at every level. And this is typical of every city. That you have to have one basically, so that for business continuity reasons, staffs as they change, they understand the policies that exist with the city. So my recommendation would be if the council chooses to approve the policy. We've already implemented most of these things internally, and this will just codify that action.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Perales. Council. Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adopt Resolution 2025-04-08 regarding adoption of a purchasing policies and procedures manual for the city of Castle Hills.
Okay, we have a motion, Mr. Joyce. Do we have a second by Mr. Smith? Any discussion? Haley?
So while we look for the best price, there was also a part of the sentence that said, or a good value. And I'd like for us to think about when we do our purchasing, that we do look within the city first for anyone that we want to do business with. And maybe the price may not be the absolute bottom dollar, but we might get more value from dealing with our own, supporting our own business community. And it doesn't say that, but I'm just think I need to say that.
I couldn't agree more. From what I've seen in Mr. Prowls and Mr. Schnall can tell me if I'm wrong, but that would be a separate ordinance where we have a buy local initiative, not really necessarily as a part of this one.
Okay,
So
I like that.
Just remember that for everything under 3,000, we have a lot of flexibility. It's when you start getting over $3,000 purchases, when you do have to follow state rules, and those are pretty strict. Unless you have a particular ordinance that specifies local support only. And remember that, many of the businesses that we do business with, we purchase over 3,000 typically. And so those are probably high ticket items, but low ticket items, not a problem. I mean, we just
Thank you.
require phone calls, that's all.
Perfect. We'll hope we have the next ordinance to work on then. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Okay, next up, we have announcements by mayor and city members, city council members on items of community interest. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just be brief. And one of the great things about being place one is I usually get to go first. So I get to remind everybody that Fiesta Castle Hills is on April 26th, and I hope to see everybody there.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Haley?
And I hope to see people helping in the beer booth or the margarita booth or at the children's area. And we all go out and show up there and support this event. This is a signature event for our city, and it's helped put us on the map. And another big reason why, we say, what we say, we love it here in Castle Hills. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Mr. May?
I will be manning the booth that is both the Business Association and the Historical Society. I noticed that Judy Crawford has already left. I'll tell her in person. But my more important role is to sit at that booth and point over in the direction of Judy Crawford's booth where you buy the tickets, because truly that's the most important role I play, where to buy those tickets.
Thank you, Mr. May. Mr. Joyce?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just take a moment to commend staff for their incredible work, especially at the moment, Chief Fataco for helping out with a question that Mr. Kevin Berry had answered a week or so ago. And I mean, it was within 48 hours I had an answer from Chief, so that's unbelievable. And also welcome, I missed last month, so I didn't get the chance to welcome publicly Mr. Perellis. I'm very impressed with the work he's done in helping with the neighbors and with all of his experience with Arlington specific to that issue. But I think we've made a good choice, and just welcome, Mr. Perellis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Ms. Staines?
Yes, Fiesta Castle Hills is coming up. As Ms. Martin mentioned, that there's an Oak Wilt presentation as well on the 22nd, which I think would be great if more neighbors came out and visited. But yeah, I would say the Fiesta is going to be amazing. And if you have it in your heart to volunteer, please reach out to either Norma McClelland or Judy Crawford, or I think any one of us up here could help you, because we do need lots of setup help the day before and manning booths and stuff the day of, and we would appreciate any extra assistance we can get.
Thank you, Ms. Daines. I wanted to welcome again Mr. Perales and echo everybody's comments about showing up for Fiesta Castle Hills. I think it's going to be another great year. We also have some infrastructure additions in the Commons to hopefully make your time there a little bit more enjoyable and year round. It is 8 o'clock. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smith, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you all for being here with us this evening.